Addressing the cult of the Nimrodians. Parasitism is the problem. Gambling in its many forms is the result. Greed and laziness is the stony ground on which seed falls and grows fast, but ultimately fails because it cannot produce fruit. Nimrod is a biblical figure described in Genesis 10 as a mighty hunter before the El, and a powerful king who established an empire in Shinar, Mesopotamia, including Babel, Erech, and Akkad. As Noah's great-grandson, he is often viewed as a symbol of rebellion against God, traditionally associated with building the Tower of Babel and fostering post-flood idolatry. Nimrod is the son of Cush, who was himself the son of Ham and grandson of Noah. The title of a mighty one on the earth and a mighty hunter is interpreted by some as meaning Nimrod was a tyrannical leader or warrior, hunter of men. Nimrod built cities in Shinar, Babel, Erech, Akkad, and Assyria, Nineveh, Kala. The phrase used to characterize Nimrod is that he was a man before the Lord. This phrase implies he put himself before the Lord, in the face of, or in opposition to God. This antipathy towards God culminated in Nimrod building the Tower of Babel. Micah 5 verse 6 refers to Assyria as the land of Nimrod, cementing his association with that region. Josephus, the historian Josephus wrote that Nimrod persuaded people to stop ascribing their success to God and to believe that their own courage procured their happiness. The poor are often associated with laziness and the rich with greed. It is a convenient, but ultimately self-defeating demarcation. The rich are often lazy, and the poor are often greedy. It really does not matter, they both are gamblers and neither trust others. The rich gamble to make profits, and the poor gamble to avoid having to pay their costs. But neither give value for money. This is not possible while one makes a profit or avoids providing anything for what one receives. The aperiodic system that we are in and that began in Eden was never fixed. We have been trying to patch up this system since its inception, but it is not broken. The aperiodic system does what it is designed to do, which is to destroy faith. When faith is destroyed, the spirit, our power of reason, is destroyed. We no longer trust our power of reason. When we no longer trust reason, people resort to gambling. The number of ways to gamble are innumerable, but they all share the same commonality in that all forms of gambling are based on fortune and an absence of reason. This increased acceptable of risk erodes trust. One cannot work and get rich. There is no pathway to wealth, especially extraordinary wealth, by means of working. Winning big requires taking big risks. Striking it rich requires a big gamble. Life, for an aperiodic, becomes a game of chance, where luck plays a major role and risk is embraced. Aperiosis is a spiritual disease or a disease of the mind. It is a corruption in the way we think, so that risk is embraced. If one cannot think, then one must embrace risk. But what if the data is not there to be rational? Rationality requires truth. One cannot reason based on false or unreliable data. But the data of the system is not trustworthy, and so after people lose faith in the system, they revert to some form of gambling. Quid pro quo is more than just a legal phrase. It hits at the heart of a rational system. We need predictability. We need to know what the result of a given stimulus or input is. Both greed and laziness have their roots in the same source, fear. Fear is the result of a lack of faith in one's rationality. If you do not think reason produces reliable results, the only thing left to you is faith in fortune. Faith is lady luck. Life becomes a gamble, and the person becomes a gambler. There is really only two kinds of people that comprise two races, and because of the differences between them, the differences between the two races creates what are technically two distinct realities. You will never understand the person until you understand which race they belong to and therefore, which reality they are in. Only one reality can be true. Only one reality can be real. If it is real, it is rational. Therefore, only one race is rational and the other, by necessity, must be irrational. The irrational race is aperiodic and their reality incoherent and beset by innumerable problems. If something is irrational, it cannot be real. If someone believes in what is not rational, he is of necessity irrational, and what he believes in is part of an illusion. We call this person aperiodic. The spiritual disease, or disease of the rational faculty, is called aperiosis. There is only one possible goal for man, that is perfection. There is only one possible kind of perfection and only one way of achieving it. We have to perfect our thinking. We must eliminate irrational thought. The Bible calls this dealing with the beam in our own eye. Charity covers a multitude of sin because it is a way to do the same thing. We turn a blind eye to the foibles of others as we strive to perfect our own thinking. When we fail to think rationally, it has an effect on reality. But the right and left have been warring for centuries in many different ways, without any resolution, and this is just a dim image of the true reality and the real war. Those who are irrational think one can get money for nothing. That money is just a permission slip. All one needs to get everything they want is enough permission slips. The greedy are overt thieves, and the lazy are covert thieves. Laziness and greed are both forms of insanity. Those who engage in these things are spiritually weak. This is liberalism. The freedom of a liberal is matched by his or her irrationality. Freedom is irrational. Freedom only exists if there are no right answers. If there is right answers to mathematical equations, why do we think there are no right answers elsewhere? If there is no truth, how can there be lies? If there is no perfection, how can we have direction? If there is no God, how can there be a right and wrong? And if no right and wrong, how is it possible to create law? God epitomizes the pinnacle of all things. Anything in which there is direction and preference points to God. However, there must be a God to point to him. On the other hand, there needs to be direction or time, if anything is to happen. Time is the universe attending to God. If we hold back, we fail to meet him. If we bear the fruit of the Spirit, we add value to the world and build the church. There is a reason we need to bear the fruits of the Spirit. Work is measured by the amount of value we create per unit of time. Without time, we would not be able to determine the fruits of the Spirit. Greed and laziness is the antithesis of performing works of the Spirit. There is dividing line, a line which divides work that adds value to the world and work that consumes from then it produces. Time plus one adds value, and time minus one consumes value. We take the time we have, and we add value to it through work. Every unit of time is worth a given predetermined value. Now, it might appear odd to postulate that we can create time, but what else do we do when we work? Look at the cultures who do not work or who work poorly. They live in what are called subsistence cultures. They live close to the standard rate of time. If time was graphed as a line, their lives would skirt the line just above it. If we spend all our life just getting by, our life is seriously circumspect. The lazier we are, the more our life follows the line of time. The greedier we are, the more our line dips below the timeline. Time is the point at which reality idles. But there is an intentional entropic component. This can be considered life, in that we have to run to remain in the same entropic position. We need to engage in the struggle for life, to live. Time, therefore, is the force of death. It is what we inherited from Eden. Time is the component that tells us, "Oh, yes, man, thou shalt surely die." We delay death through work, but the impetus is still there. The inevitability remains. Time is that element added to reality after Eden to drag us inevitably towards death. To live, we need to work to delay the inevitable. Work creates time, yet does not reverse it. If you work sufficiently, the believer is able to build the church. The believer takes work and turns work into time and builds the church, and by this means he or she is sanctified. But when he does not work, he must keep himself liquid by other means. But there is no other means other than theft or freeloading. One works and adds value to time, or one exploits others and feeds off of them. Time is expanded by work, but work of a particular kind. Not all forms of work are equal. Time is expanded by work that adds value. The more value added to time, the more it is enriched. The enrichment of time involves specialization. Through specialization, what would take 10, 100, or 1,000 hours is done in minutes or seconds. This is the fruit of good works. But without faith, we cannot invest the time or treasure needed to permit specialization to go far. The investment will not be made, as it must be made over a considerable period of time. This incremental addition of value to enable specialization through technical advance is what the Bible calls charity, as it adds to the social capital. It is the greed and laziness of some that causes some societies to stagnate and others to struggle to advance the accumulation of capital. It is a simple dichotomy. Either we work and add capital so we can incrementally advance through the progressive adoption of specialized methodologies, or we live off the avails of others, and to the degree or extent we do this, reduce the capacity of the system to specialize and accumulate capital, even to the extent of reducing capital formation to such a degree that the civilization goes into decline.